Good morning. It's been a minute. The reason I'm connecting today is because I received a message from someone asking me about the awakening process. And in a rather poetic way, they asked me how it is that as we awaken, we deal with dishonesty. Specifically, they said something along the lines of, how is it, does anything other than the brutal truth burn your insides? Or do you find you're able to interact with it? Because that's the only way we can navigate this world. And my response was to say that, yeah, the lies and the dishonesty, they hurt deeper than ever when you see them from an awakened state and you see them more frequently and more clearly because your sight and your perception is more crystalline. But at the same time, I feel deeply compassionate for them. This person responded, compassionate towards dishonesty? How? What? And and so I want to record a response to this. And the reason that I'm doing it for all of you versus specifically for this person is I feel called to share it. Yeah. So as we awaken, we become more sensitive and more sensible, and we see the ways that people consciously deceive us a lot more clearly. And we also can see the subtle and unconscious and subconscious ways that people are deceiving not only us, but also themselves. And even more painful than that is seeing the ways that you are subtly deceiving yourself. And the ways that, for me, the way that I can see that I can be dishonest with myself. And as my consciousness becomes more crystalline and spreads its mycelial fingers farther and deeper into my being, I am aware of more. So spaces where, oh, that's just my behavior, normal, business as usual, when you ramp up the ability to perceive, you'll see that, wow, like I've really been deceiving myself. And so this is my answer. This is the key of how can I be compassionate towards dishonesty, is recognizing that there is not always malevolence behind it. Oftentimes it's very rarely malevolence. Even when we perceive something as malevolent, there's something else that's usually motivating that person. And sometimes it's ego driven, oftentimes it's ego driven, or driven by the stories, or just unconscious behavior. It's pretty rare in my reality, at least, to encounter intentional malevolent, meaning malintent, or with a bad intention, an evil intention, an intention to hurt. Oftentimes people are acting in self-preservation and in alignment with their accordance, in alignment and in accordance with their belief system. And so recognizing that, and then also, like I said, the key for me to compassion towards dishonesty is that I see the ways that I'm dishonest with myself. And rather than berating myself, getting angry, and reacting in a negative way, I use this as, to the greatest of my capacity, I use this as an invitation to just breathe into those spaces and be like, whoa, yeah, okay. For instance, I was rereading a message I sent to someone in my life that I had hurt maybe 6-7 months ago, and I was rereading it at like 3 a.m. one night when I couldn't sleep, and And it was fascinating to me to read the words that I had spoken, because I remember typing them, and I remember the space I was in, and I felt like I was in perfect alignment, and what I was speaking was so true and so kind and so compassionate and so clear. And then, reading it with the eyes I have now, without the emotional veil of reaction, I saw like, wow, that was not the best way to respond, and I actually probably shouldn't have responded at all, and that was totally an ego move. And I saw like so clearly the ways that I was deceiving myself in that moment with thinking I was in the right. And then, that took a huge dose of self-compassion to be able to look at that, see the deception, and to realize like I wasn't trying to do harm, but my response may have been harmful. And so when we're able to respond to ourselves with compassion, that enables us to also respond to others with compassion, seeing that. And even if you're dealing with someone who is being purposefully and consciously deceptive and malevolent, that is still an invitation for compassion. Because you can choose to be reactive, to take their invitation into density and walk into it and get angry and self-righteous, victimized, and how dare you, that hurts me deeply. I mean, you can do that. You have free will, but I wouldn't recommend it, because they're living in that frequency where that's okay, and that's justified for them. And you have the opportunity, the option, and the gift to make the choice to respond to that from an elevated frequency, to see, okay, that's your reality. I choose not to participate in that reality. I choose not to act in malevolent, harmful ways. I choose not to be deceptive. I choose to be an open book. I choose to open myself to this world. I choose to set my barriers and my stories that have been keeping me feeling so safe, but have actually been keeping me distance from the world. I choose to lay those aside, and I choose to move from my heart space and from the heart frequency, and that is always compassion. There's a practice, forgive me if I mispronounce this, but it is a Hawaiian term. It's like a ho'opono. Anyways, it's a practice of forgiveness, and you call to mind a hurtful situation, and you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. No, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. Forgiveness is really powerful. Really powerful. And we don't always need the other to accept our forgiveness. We don't always even need to express our forgiveness to them. It's entirely an internal to alchemize it. We can entirely internally alchemize our resentment and our pain into forgiveness and into compassion. And if the opportunity extends itself for us to offer this, beautiful. But just by doing it internally, that frequency is in your field and is offered to everyone you interact with. And whether they consciously or subconsciously know it at all, their being picks up on the kindness in your soul and the authenticity and how genuine you are, and like honey that draws those you want to you. So how can we be compassionate towards dishonesty? You simply choose to.